Hey, John.
Hey, Dean.
Today's lesson is, well, about lessons. It's hard lessons we've learned.
Yes, there's a
And
lot of them.
you're going to go first and talk about one or two lessons that
I can do that.
cost you something in time or cost you money or
I can do that.
reputation or something, and something you had to recover from.
Yeah, I could probably go on all day with these, but we'll start with I think the big one, and the big one is that we always think it would be great to have somebody that we partner up with, but typically what happens when you do that is eventually it may work out great at first, but eventually somebody has a change of plans that doesn't agree with the other person. And so I've had a couple of those over the years. I don't know if you've ever run into that personally.
Okay.
Say no more, right? I think everybody has.
Yeah.
And so how do you avoid this? Because I mean, I don't think I need to get into the nitty gritty of it, but how do you avoid it? And I think the easiest thing to do is at least if you're not going to do something contractually, although I highly recommend that, work out like a
Well, what
contract.
are some of the details around this to sort of help frame it for folks?
Um, Gosh, well, some of the details, you know,
Without without specifying or identifying anybody, obviously.
yeah,
We're not here
yeah,
to.
sure. I mean, there may be a number of different things.
What was your situation generally?
I've had a couple different ones
Okay.
that involve working with somebody else. So usually the most typical one is you just decide to work with somebody on a particular project.
Sure.
You
Happens
know,
all the time.
it happens all the time. And then you're moving along on the project, and then all of a sudden, life is not a democracy. There's not a third person to make a choice to break the deciding vote, right? So somehow you have to come to an agreement in, where things are going to go from here. And that can be very challenging
Right.
because there is no tying vote. There is nobody to break that stalemate. It's just you and that other person. And it's important to just kind of walk through and try to find common ground again and get things working again.
So how do you
It's,
avoid?
the way that you avoid it is, I think you really have to have something kind of clearly written or at
Yeah.
least clearly set up
So
front.
good fences make good neighbors. Good contracts make good
And I've
business.
learned that too. I've got a lot of good fences because I had an issue with a neighbor not that long ago over something stupid that wasn't my fault. But people change their minds, and change things around. They like to change the rules kind of at the last minute. So, but like anything, you see more contracts these days that are about, hey, if we have a disagreement, we're going to get a third party to arbitrate it, to step in for us
Right.
and work on that. There's a lot of different ways to go through it, but the big thing to figure out ahead of time is, hey, listen, if we have a disagreement somewhere along, because this has happened to me before, how are we going to solve it? And to just kind of work out together a way that makes sense to solve it, whether it is we're going to get so and so to mediate it, we're going to do, um, we'll draw straws. I mean, it could be anything to get through it, but
Right.
it is a tough situation to be in, especially at the time. And there are things that always pop up. So that's probably like one of the most difficult things. And so that can either be like the worst thing. A partnership for a project isn't so bad, but if you've got a partnership that you have set up um, more exclusively to cover like your full business, that can be a
Right.
jaw dropper to pull apart. And I've watched several people do those over the years, and that can be really super super rough, especially if you've built significant assets on the project together, and then you're trying to figure out, oh, okay, how do we amicably decide to separate this and make it work out for everybody? That is really, really tough. I've watched a lot of friends go. Thankfully, I've never had that happen, but I have watched many a friend go through that, and it
Right.
isn't pretty. Isn't
I
pretty.
mean, it's almost like any other interpersonal relationship.
It is.
And I mean, however you want to think about a two-person relationship, and there are lots of, sort of themes around that. Like every two-person relationship has a flower and a gardener,
Exactly.
right? That's
And
one way to look
having
at it.
a
Or
full business partnership is like a marriage.
yeah, it's very much like a
It's
marriage.
very much like a marriage. So it's
Right,
kinda like
and similar to a marriage, unless it's a really perfect, idealized kind of
mhm,
marriage, generally speaking, in anything that you're doing or any one area, I mean, marriages have many areas and sort of partnerships, right? But there's this and there's that. Essentially, pretty much you're always either you're on your own agenda or you're on someone else's agenda, but you're always on someone's agenda. And there's nothing wrong with being on someone else's agenda as long as you understand that's where you are.
exactly.
If someone else's plan is that, we need to spend a lot more time fixing our own processes and making sure that we're getting invoices out and that kind of stuff, then, that's fine. But if
Mhm,
that's their agenda. And you saying, hey, let's focus instead on community outreach and whatever, like that's not what they're doing.
right. I think the other thing that's important in this is know what each other if you have any kind of partnership, know what each other is great at. So,
Yeah.
like, you wanna make sure that whoever is doing what is working in their zone of brilliance and
Right,
not
and if your partner has if your partner or you are a
mhm,
star in something,
mhm,
like just a real rock star, knocks it out of the park over and over again kind of thing,
yep,
then just understand that every time someone's really good at something, it came at the cost of something else, which is to say they're not very good or even terrible or even destructive, or they drag everything backwards on some other part, and
on
you need
some
to
other part.
fill in around them to
Yes.
make to either, like, soften their impact or negate it and just build structures around them so that it can handle your
Yeah,
business.
fortunately, I've never bumped into anybody that's destructive on a particular avenue.
Right,
But you just never know. So, it's important to kinda, like, figure out what do we do if we run into this case scenario? How do we resolve it? And just
right.
kinda talk about those things, upfront. And, full partnerships are much more harder to deal with and pull apart than,
Yes.
just a project, which you can just dump the project. And
Yeah, you can just
in a
walk
lot
away.
of cases,
"No,
you can
this
just
didn't
kinda
work
walk
out for
away.
us. No hard feelings.
Right,
Don't walk away mad, just walk away."
exactly.
Or
The other area that I've had issues with, I know other people have had issues with, is, doing business with somebody that doesn't keep their promise,
right.
and or does something that, you just can't quite get past, in any way, shape, or form. And I had one recently that really, really ticked me off because it's somebody that, I respect pretty well. And, they managed to, take down a website property, never accounted for that, never did
Wait,
anything,
took it down accidentally or just decided to take down a website? Like,
just on purpose
as
took
in
it down,
not have a website operate anymore?
took it down,
Okay.
never said anything about it. "Hey, I think I'll just take this down."
Alright.
Yeah, never say anything about it. It gets worse from there, but anyways, I'm not gonna get into the worse from there. But sometimes things like that happen, and the so there's a couple lessons learned with this, right? Again, you wanna have, clear, concise goals, an action plan to resolve it. You want to, have something in writing, even if it's not officially in writing, but preferably it's legal,
Right.
um, so that you've got something to go back on. And one of the things that's always a challenge is that if something super crazy bad happens, you're typically obligated to go to court in the state that the other person lives in
Yeah.
that you're having the disagreement with. And so that can be also a big pain in the keister.
And these days, who lives in the same state as their
Nobody,
partners? Nobody, right?
nobody, nobody.
Or even
So
worse,
that
you live in a different country than your partner.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that can, bring up some huge issues in trying to resolve. So how do you avoid this in the first place? Well, the way you avoid it in the first place is you really find out the people that you are purchasing something from, using as a consultant. Um, you wanna ask for as many referrals, as many, key points as you can to make sure that you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
because very difficult to break, to get out of, to try to get, right from if something goes wrong. So those are kinda like the 2 areas that I have had the most difficulty with
I can
in the
completely
hard
agree with you.
lessons learned of life. I can probably think of a couple more, but I'll let you
I
come
bet
up
you
with
could.
one. I'll let you come up with one.
So I ended up there's I guess I have two. One is about spending money in lieu of doing the work, which never
Mm,
works. And the other is starting with the end in mind.
mhm.
So let's talk about just really briefly. I think everyone has had some sort of experience like this.
Yeah.
And in fact, the entire gym industry and home workout industry are based on this concept that people will conflate and confuse spending money on the product or service instead of actually like doing the work. I mean, how many
Mhm.
people have home workout equipment or a gym membership and they never use them? It's
A
like,
lot of
oh, I
people.
decided to get fit. I decided to get healthy. I'm going to buy a Nordic Track, a Bowflex, a Peloton. And it just, you use it for a little bit and then it sits in the corner and you're done. Or you have a gym membership and you never use it. And this is true for business as well. Oh, I need to increase my sales through email. I need a better website. I need to learn how to be a coach. I need to do
Mm,
whatever. You buy the course, you spend the money on the product or whatever, and then that's as far as you go.
yes. People
So the
become product
money's
addicts.
spent, the money's gone, and you've had no improvement. But you do feel better temporarily.
Mhm.
But if you look back at it, you like that money's completely wasted. And you're probably still paying for it every month.
Probably, and you can't learn through osmosis.
No,
Spending the money does
you
not
learn
mean
by
it gets
doing
in
it.
your head. You just learn by doing it and applying it.
Buying books, same thing.
And I'm amazed. This is one of my pet peeves too, because I'm amazed. I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to that do coaching, and their
Right.
coaching's fairly expensive. 5, 10 grand,
Yeah.
and they'll say to me, yeah, I can't believe this guy spent 5 grand with me. I gave me $5,000. I never saw him again.
Yeah.
Who does that? Like, I don't do that, but yeah, it never ceases to surprise me. And even if it's embarrassment, like I didn't follow through on it, I didn't you spent a lot of money to do that. You should never let that stand in your way.
Right. But we do it. We make the same mistake over and
You
over.
do, over
And
and
on
over.
on a large scale or a small scale, like we buy some kind of snack and then it sits in the cupboard for months because we never bother to get to it.
Mhm, mhm.
We all do this, but if you can start recognizing the pattern and at least avoid the big expenses, you save yourself a lot of money and a lot of
A lot of
heartache.
money. Yes.
And then sort of the other hardest lesson to learn, which honestly I did not learn until like far into adulthood, is that it is always worth the hassle, the uncomfortableness, the time and the effort and the thinking effort to start with how something should end, how you'd like it to
Mhm,
end, and
mhm.
work your way backwards instead of just getting caught up in the thrill of the possibility and openness of a decision that you make or something you agree to that someone else wants to do. Oh, and I have like a corollary that I have like a little, it's related. It was so interesting. So I had a career coach and going back and forth, and this was like a few years ago, and I was still like in the corporate world. And he had this exercise where you start right with your first job, even if it's a part-time job, and you start, but especially when you get out of college, and you start like looking at them in order. You list them out and you look at them and start thinking about like what caused, what's your path and what have you been following. So I looked at that
Mm,
and I said, I don't think that exercise is particularly useful, but I bet
mhm,
if I flip it and start with the end in mind, it might yield something really fun. And it did. If you start look at your career, but look at it from where you are, let's say you're in a corporate job, right? Start with the job you're in, look at the job you had before, immediately before it, and think about what caused you to want to move to that
mm,
job. It can even be the same company, but a different job. And then go one back from that and say, well, what caused me to want to move into that one? And then what
mhm.
caused me to want to move into that one? And what caused me to want to move into that one? That exercise revealed a pattern in my career that I had not noticed over 2 decades.
Yeah, I recently went through that
Yeah.
myself, and one of
Starting
the
with the end, or if the end is today, let's say, and then,
Mhm,
which counts, and looking
mhm.
backwards and seeing how you got here, It's very revealing. In my case, what I found was I would change jobs and even careers, although not necessarily companies, because I had moved into a position. I had, learned what it is to learn. I think in just about any job, you learn everything you need in the first year, and every year after that is just kind of a repeat of the first year. The second year is sort of where you put on the gas and you just go, right? The third
Mhm.
year is where you're just flying and even halfway coasting. But anyway, there would be some other position adjacent to what I was doing or above it or whatever, where that person clearly was not good at that job.
Right.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
ended up having to learn their job. And I said, like, this person sucks. And I'm gonna like take that over because I hate the way they're doing it. So basically, my entire career
Mm.
was just me moving into other roles and careers just because I was pissed at
Mhm.
a person. That is
Yeah.
not
I
plan your. I mean, it worked out, no
I've been
question.
there.
It very easily could not have worked out. And
I've
so
been
looking backwards instead of forwards, either look forwards with the end in mind and
Mhm.
figure out, okay, what would happen just before that? And what would need to happen just before that in order to map out a plan and a path? Or look at where you are and then
Mhm.
backwards to see how you got there. It's always worth 45 minutes, a cup of coffee, and a
Yeah.
little bit of music playing, or go to Starbucks and just sketch it out. It will blow your
Everything's worth
mind how you got to where you are.
everything's worth a reframe. I had one thing that was kind of funny. I had a superior who reamed me out for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Just came at me one night. I'm like, man, what happened to this guy? And a lot of it was like, if I was a little more humble in my younger years, I would just say, you know what, this is cool. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna let this go, and we'll just iron it out. Instead, I went and found a job, and I went to a new company that actually got me in probably worse shape.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, I mean, I had a pretty good situation that I was in. And eventually that boss came and he did ultimately apologize to me because he knew he was out of line, which I got to give him credit for. At first I was also a little angry that finally he came out and just said, "Hey, I'm really sorry I was out of line." But it only took him a week to figure that out. So, but that's the kind of stuff, you just kind of think through, could I have handled that
Right.
differently? You
Yeah.
know, we all have those moments.
Yeah. I guess one other hard lesson is
Yeah.
it's almost never about you,
It's never about you.
right?
And even
That
when people
person,
are
especially
angry
if you
with
have a blow
you,
up with somebody, right?
yeah, and even when
It's not
people are
about you.
angry at you,
Yeah.
it's not for the reason that
Yeah.
they
They're mad
even
at
think
their
it is.
spouse. They had a terrible commute into work.
Something else. Yep.
Some reversal happened in their life. It had to boil over somewhere for whatever reason. It couldn't or really shouldn't have. Some survival instinct kicked
Yep.
in to not boil over at the thing that caused it. So instead, it boils over somewhere else. It's virtually never about you. Or to look at it another way, whatever you think you did or someone's mad at, if they'd won the lottery that morning, they would not be yelling at you right now.
Mhm. Very true. Very true.
It's not about you, or it's almost never about you. Even if they're talking about
Yeah.
something very specific, if it's like a really unpleasant encounter, it's usually because it's something else
Yeah.
has sort of stirred up. Or like that saying goes, as far as anger or guilt or whatever, you can't stir it if it's not already in the pot.
Exactly. And even when it is about you, it's not really about you.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are my two hard lessons. It's always worth starting with the end in mind, even if it's
Mm.
more work and a kind of a pain in the butt to do it. And and spending money is not a substitute for doing the work, doing the thinking, doing the effort. It feels good, like you've accomplished something, but you've accomplished nothing. You didn't need that book. You aren't going to read it. This is what like people tell me. Oh yeah, like I read 200 books a year. I said, okay. What about reading 10 books a year, but really, 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 really applying what's in them?
Some people are crazy with the number of books that they say they're going to read. They say
Yeah.
they're going to read a book a day. Seriously?
What would be the point
Yeah,
of that?
on what planet is that going to happen? You're not going
Right.
to read a book a day. I mean, maybe you can speed read a book a day. I mean, I can physically do it, but
Sure.
I'm probably not going to. But anyways, so I got a couple kind of takeaways with this.
Yeah, sure.
Over the years, I think anytime you run into a situation like this, it's good to kind of ask, there's something I'm supposed to learn here. How should I be reframing this before I really kind of act on it or get angry or,
Hey,
how, hey,
did you
what?
see David Pamavang in the
Yeah,
comment? David
I
Pamavang
did.
is one of the greatest people you will ever meet. I worked with him at a company called OpenNet
Okay,
many, many, many years ago.
cool.
I think he lives out on the West Coast, California, maybe Oregon, somewhere like that. But like such like a great guy, and definitely one of those people where you can just sort of. I think actually I didn't work for David. I don't think at any point, but I worked for someone who worked with him, and
California is,
and it was just he was really good at that sort of. He's very even. What's the word? Even keeled.
that's the way I am. Very
Yeah, he's
even
very
keeled.
even keel. Like it's very hard to fluster. And
I
we were
don't
in
anger
a
easily.
stressful business, but he was one of those people that was just I'm sure he felt flustered and upset about stuff. He had a high pressure VP
Sure.
job, but
Mm.
he didn't take it out on his people. And everyone that I worked with who worked for him thought that he was fantastic.
He's
Oh, look,
giving you lots of hearts. That's perfect, David. That's the
yeah,
way you want to be.
yeah,
Unfortunately, most superiors are not like that. They're looking at, yeah, he did that wrong. It's just how do I get a piece of him?
yeah.
And that's unfortunate. There should be more people like you. So good on you. I don't even know you, but good on you.
So you got a couple
I
takeaways before I interrupted you with David Palma, my little
don't
fanboy
even remember what the
takeaway.
second one. Oh, so yeah, so I find reframing things, extremely valuable just to go and in my own mind work them through and say, there's some lesson that's trying to be taught to me here. What am I seeing? What am I supposed to? How should I react to this? At least it keeps you from making some kind of knee jerk crazy reaction to things. And then with the other things that I've gone through, I mean, I think it's important to really get to know who it is you're dealing with. I've even gone to the point over the last couple of years, I only work with people that other friends have vetted as well to me. Like if
Right.
I'm doing some kind of close project, I would come to you and say, "Hey, Dean, do you know somebody that is in this neighborhood or in this area that could help out with us?" And that's really kind of helped. And what you wind up with, instead of having a bunch of people that you worry about all the time, is you've got like 20 to 30 really close friends, close people that you can really work with very closely. If that makes
Yeah.
any sense at all.
No, that's a great takeaway.
Hmm.
Sort of
So
like
those are my
limit,
two big
you know,
takeaways.
bring on people carefully, limit, their commitment to you and your commitment to them until, because it's, and again, everything that I've said up to that point about your takeaways, it's not that we don't trust people. You absolutely trust people and have to
Yeah,
trust people. And it's
we
not
have
that you
to.
don't assume that everyone is trying to do their best but again, they have a very rich and complex life going on, and you are just one tiny bit of that. And
And
their
so do we,
intentions
for that
may be
matter.
pure and wonderful, but there's a whole universe of things going on in their life that could and their business that could affect that. And
Mm.
so it's
You
better to
know,
just progress in step slowly.
the other thing that's kind of helped me a lot, and a lot of people don't do this, but to be as open and honest and as transparent as you possibly can with the different things going on in your life,
Yes.
because nobody around you knows what's happening with you. That all of a sudden they'll just go, "Geez, what's up with Dean?"
Right.
But the more transparent you are with people, the more they appreciate it, and actually, the more they'll give you the same satisfaction. Because we wonder why all of a sudden, man, that's I had just like the strange conversation with Dean. I wonder, I
Yeah.
guess the same thing. I wonder what's
Everybody
going on.
says they've had a strange conversation with Dean
It
Powell.
takes
Nothing to
well,
do with
I'm just using you as an example because
I
you're
just
here,
have a
but
lot of strange ideas.
yeah, but we do that with everyone, and then we wonder, geez, what's going on with so and so? And if the more transparent you can be with people, it doesn't really matter who it is, the better off you are.
Yeah.
We feel like it's a weakness to do that, but it's not. It's a strength.
Yeah. Plus, if
Yeah,
your own money is on the line, absolutely.
even more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It drives up your interest in something. All right. That's it for today. Tomorrow is what's the theme tomorrow? Like every Wednesday.
Website Wednesday.
Website Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes. So how Website Wednesday works is John or some other guest will pick a search term, or actually, some people actually give us the website address. They want us to look at their website, and we go. If it's a search term, we go to Google. We pick the 10th page of Google results, like buried down there in the middle of nowhere, and go to that website and start either rewriting it right there from in place, or
Yep.
provide guidance on what to fix and what to change. Sometimes we're not actually able to change what's on the page, or if someone provides their own website, then we're happy to walk through it and explain, this could be better, you should rephrase this is in the wrong place, don't do it this way, that kind of stuff. So, and it's all live. None of it is prepared. I never know ahead of time what they're going to throw at me, what website or type of business or industry or anything. It's all live. So it's to show that A, principles are universal, and B, for whatever reason, I happen to be very fast.
And Elizabeth was very
rewriting.
grateful, by the way, for what you did on hers last week. So
I'm sorry, what was that?
Elizabeth was very grateful for what you did on
Oh,
hers
good.
last week.
Maybe someday
So
I'll meet her. She
she's
was
made a
the
couple
Christian mom homeschooling
homeschool.
lady,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
She made
okay.
a couple comments this week about it, and she's like, I really thought that was a good idea, but now I can see it was horrible.
Yeah. Oh, well.
or not really horrible, but just not the best way of handling that.
Take it from
So
someone who gets paid to come up with a lot of ideas. If you're in a silo, you think all your ideas are great, and
David, we do take
no one in the
questions.
world has only great ideas.
Yeah, so David, aside from telling me all about you and saying what sharing with me your brilliance, which I already know,
Yes,
but
David, we
thank you,
absolutely take
David.
questions.
But yes, we do take questions for the audience, and we take suggestions for sites if anybody has something that they want looked over. So feel free.
And then starting next week, Tuesdays will be a themed day as well. So starting next week and every Tuesday onward, it will be social media Tuesdays. So we'll look at people's LinkedIn profiles, Facebook pages, company
That'll be fun.
pages, and also the pitches that people make to all of us. I mean, I
Oh gosh,
I almost did it again this morning, but I got pitched. You know how it is on LinkedIn. Someone connects with you, and then they immediately try to like send you a message to pitch you.
I'm
And
constantly
I
getting
look at
pitched.
them and I say, A, don't do that, and B, it's all I can do not to reply back to this person and say, dude, do you want me to just rewrite this for you? Because it's so bad that I'm sure
Yeah,
nobody's replying to you.
yeah, and it's terrible because usually the first approach is something like, "Do you have a minute? Do you have a?" Yeah, it's like,
Right.
"Yeah, for what? I don't even know who you are.
Right.
Never met you. We have no common friends."
So I think what we'll do is we'll
Mm.
open up some of our LinkedIn accounts and look at the
Oh
pitches
boy.
that people give us and like pull them apart and then say what we would have done. Don't get me wrong. There's
No,
nothing
this is
inherently
good.
wrong with pitching on LinkedIn. There isn't.
No,
Uh,
no, no, nothing
right.
at all. But
The
you have to
problem
go about it.
is that A, you might be doing it too early,
That's
and
me.
B, it's so formulaic that people just get mildly annoyed and never reply back.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who write you something that's very formulaic, and then when you don't reply, because I have an open policy. I've been on LinkedIn. Okay, this is true. I've been on LinkedIn since its third month in existence.
Mm. I
I
think me
think
too. I've been on a long time.
at one point they would tell you what number you were. I think I'm like number 31,000 on out of
Mm.
800 million on LinkedIn, right? So I've been
Mhm.
there a long, long time, 20 years, I think. And so I have an open policy. If someone asks to connect with me, I will accept the connection request.
I
But
do
that
too.
doesn't mean I want to hear from them or that I've evaluated whether or not I ever want to do business with them. But
Yeah.
their writing is so formulaic that I just want to reach out and smack them in the face. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna if you're gonna risk the rejection and risk the, nasty replies, hardly
Mm.
anyone does, but whatever, or risk the
Mhm.
chance that someone's gonna mark you as spam, at least be assertive and have an interesting message.
Yeah.
But instead,
Yeah.
it's just, "Oh my god, if I have one more lead generation service contact me, I'm gonna go nuclear on somebody."
Yeah. And I'm typically okay if somebody comes up and says, you're involved with this and this, and I think
Yeah,
we might have good reason to connect and maybe we can chat sometime. That's perfectly fine with me. But when somebody just comes up and immediately tries to sell me something or pitch me something, or
right.
in what world does that work? In what world do we say, hey, Dean, you know what? let's forget about coffee. Let's just go get married. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
what planet does that person live on? It just,
right.
that's not life, you know?
And we'll spend some time looking at people's profiles, especially their about sections. I mean, I did literally hundreds of those for people last year.
Yes, I was one of them.
Yeah, you were one of them. You
I was
got
one
one
of
of the
the,
free
of
ones,
course.
and then because we used to stream them for a while, and I would write them
Yeah,
in real time. And now, I mean, it's been a service at perfectlydescribed.com for quite a while. I don't do all that many anymore,
no,
but they're still very enjoyable. I have another one coming up this week. But we'll look at what people have
pretty cool.
put in their about sections, and then the thing is, the LinkedIn about section is very, very tough for most people to write,
Mm,
because the rest of your LinkedIn page is sort of you talking about you, and your headline is kind of you shouting about you. But the about section is actually about the reader and not you. It's where
hmm
you need to talk about yourself, but to the reader, it seems like you're talking about them. And most people never need to write like that. They're not in marketing, they're not in sales writing, they're not copywriters, and they
mm,
have a little bit of trouble getting over. Although a lot of them, once you explain how to reframe it, they make a really good go at doing it themselves, good enough that they don't need someone like me to ever look at it or work on
So
it.
I got to ask David. So David says, Dean, let's talk. I need help. Is that an example, or are you really asking for help? Because either way, it's good. but more people need to be like that and just say, you know what? Hey, I need help. Let's talk. I'd like to talk to you
Yeah.
about this. I really could use your help. So either way, that's good. But
Okay, so that
just
means
be
that
fun.
we're already done with Mondays and Tuesdays. We
Yeah,
do have a theme on Mondays, but it's a secret theme. Like, it's the same every Monday, but we don't tell anyone what it is because it makes us look bad. Every
nice
Tuesday, social media. Every Wednesday, websites. And
websites.
every Thursdays is like probably my favorite day of the week, which
I
is
love
John
Tools
what?
Day. Tools
Tools
Day.
we love.
Tools we
Yes,
love. Tools we
tools
love.
we love.
All right.
And
David
I've
says he'll
learned
call
about
you.
so many great tools from you and everyone else that comes on and talks about them. They're fantastic.
David says he'll call you.
Okay, then.
All right. Nice meeting you, David.
David, you
Virtually.
can also email me, dean@waycreative.com. It's right under my
That
name
works
on the
too.
screen. All right. Tomorrow, website Wednesday. Can't wait.
Website Wednesday. It's going to be a blast. Bring your
Always
website.